wondered was whether you would be interested in seeing me have a go at mending my old Panda. So Panda was a gift for me when I was 2 and has been with me ever since. I will admit he's been away in a cupboard for a few years now, but I've taken him out recently. I'm a bit concerned about moths. We've had an infestation of moths over this last year, and I was a bit concerned, so I've taken the bears out of the cupboard and I'm having just to kind of go over with them. Panda has had a few mends along the way, possibly at times when I wasn't quite so adept at needlework. I'm not suggesting I'm any major expert right now, but having watched the repair shop quite a few times, I feel like I can be confident to give it a bit of a go. So I hope you are interested to see what I do. I'm hoping it turns out okay. I will probably edit, if I can, this video and not give you the whole experience, but we'll see from there. So one of the things that I'm doing at the moment is taking out a lot of the old stitching that has not been done very well, and I'm going to have a go at darning. So I hope you enjoy. So as I say, the first thing I've been doing is taking out the old stitching that I did many years ago, and just did overstitch, which is very easy stitch, and obviously just use whatever cotton I had to hand. So it isn't necessarily the best way of doing it. So I'm trying to be very careful here in taking out all of the old stitching without too much damage to the material that is quite fragile. If you can see, little ears, cute, so cute, around his nose particularly, he's quite threadbare. So I'm going to have a go at darning. The best cotton I could find in my collection that matched him is this kind of goldy grey colour. So I'm just going to thread the needle now. Perhaps I should have done that before I started the camera, because now you're going to see how blind as a bat I am in trying to actually thread the needle. Watching some YouTube videos on darning, I think I should probably have kind of thicker thread, but I don't have thicker thread, so I'm just using what I have at the moment. Ooh, no, that's gone in very well. Marvellous. Okay. Just going to make sure that the camera... Ooh, sorry. Who knows, I might be able to edit that out. So I'm just going to put a knot in the bottom. Tidy it up a bit, just to keep it in place. I always have to wear a thimble. Can't sew without a thimble, I don't know why. It just gives me a bit of confidence, I think. So there is still a little thread there, but I think we can leave that in. So I'm going to go in from the inside just to the outer edge of where I want to start the darn. Not pull too tight because it might pop out. I don't want it to do that. And I'm just going to do a quick, very small running stitch around the area that I want to darn. And what that does, it just contains the darn and gives me a very clear area to sew. It's actually really nice to see him again. You know, you kind of, as you go through life, what was once your best friend gets consigned to the cupboard, and it's not very adult most of the time to actually talk to your bear, but I talk to him a lot through the years. He knows all my secrets. Okay, so that's just taken a stitch round the area that I want to go through, and the first thing I'm going to do is to make long stitches across the whole. It's almost like a weave and weft approach darning. So I'm just going to take that down. You can see on the camera. Okay. Don't pull it too tight, otherwise you will get gathering up, and that's what I want to try and avoid, because that's what I did with the running stitch and it wasn't the best approach. So just very carefully down, fix that in place, then across, fix that in place. Don't want a blanket stitch, and down. I hope this turns out all right. No expert in this. My mum was a great darner and I did used to watch her, but I wish I'd paid more attention. I guess that's like most things in life. When we're younger, we don't necessarily realise the value of what we have. Plus this is a little awkward doing it in situ. I guess most darning is done on one of those darning mushrooms, which I do have. It was my mum's, and I think possibly her mum's before her. But obviously I didn't want to take the whole bear to pieces because I would be very concerned that I wouldn't get him back together again. And
why do you whisper, green grass? Why tell the trees what ain't so? Whispering grass, the trees don't have to know.
okay, so ready for the science bit here. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about darning in terms of why it's important and why it might be important to me. So I've made some notes which I'm hoping not to look at, but if I look down occasionally that might be why, as I get used to I guess facilitating learning in a slightly different way. Darning is something that I have been exposed to, shall we say, for most of my life. My mum was a very keen darner, darned most things, even pet toys, which is something that I have continued. I must admit, when it comes to pet toys, I'm probably not the neatest. Usually I've got one or two of the pets sitting there waiting for it to be mended, and so doing a good job is probably never quite as easy as one might hope. So in terms of darning, darning is a way of mending fabric, usually wool, cotton, any kind of fabric that you have. If you have a whole or worn fabric that needs repairing, darning is a good way to do that. It involves running stitches, and it's a basic kind of weave and weft approach where you create longer stitches that you then weave through to create the darned kind of solid, that's probably not the right word, kind of robust approach to mending the material. And you usually use equipment, obviously needle and thread. It needs to be good quality thread usually, it needs to last quite a long while. And in most cases where you are darning a piece of clothing, you would use something called a darning mushroom, and I have here one that was my mum's that I can show you here. So in true vlogger style, I'm going to put my hand behind it. I don't know why they do that, but that seems to be what they do all the time. So that is a darning mushroom. The piece of fabric goes over the mushroom head here with the hole in the centre, and you then are able to get the correct tension. However, I can't use this today on the project that I'm using, that I'm working on, and you can see why. So I think, you know, the make, do and mend, as I've mentioned before, was a generation, particularly in World War II, where clothing was quite difficult to get hold of, and darning became certainly very popular then. The other thing I kind of wanted to mention is that I think for me it has a kind of resonance with the Japanese art of Kintsugi. I'm just checking my notes to make sure I've pronounced that correctly. Kintsugi, I think is how it's certainly spelt. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And that is, the meaning of that is golden joinery, and most of you may be familiar with usually ceramics, pottery that has broken, needs repair, and they use gold powder so that the actual repair becomes visible, so that the repair becomes part of the history of the piece, and that has the kind of approach that's a very important piece, that's showing the history of it is very important, and actually having flaws is not the worst thing in the world, and it shows a level of care and a level of commitment. And I think to some extent Darning can have that same approach for me too. Okay, so I'm on to the next part of Panda's makeover, and I've just got some lukewarm water and some fiery liquid in my pot, and I just want to make as many bubbles as possible because I'm not actually going to put the water on him. I'm going to put the bubbles on cotton wool and then gently swipe that over his fur just to see if we can get any of the muck off. So let me put the camera angle down again and see what happens.